Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on the old show today, the Ford Mustang's in the news, and for an interesting reason. The fact that this thing is selling pretty well is it sold for over a year here in the United States, but it was sold for a little under a year outside of the U.S., but it has sold exceptionally well. In fact, in just one country, it sold really well, and that's the country of Germany. In fact, since launch, this thing has sold over 16,000 units, and in fact, last month in March, it outsold every rival, every German rival on home soil as far as Germany's concerned. The Mustang sold 780 units in the month of March, beating out the Porsche 911 at 752, the Audi TT at 708, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class Coupe at 530, and even the Porsche Boxster at only 442 units. Again, the car is selling exceptionally well, but to beat out these folks was a pretty big feather in the cap. It'll be interesting to see how well this car sells heading into the future, especially for the sheer fact that there's only the Turbo 4 and the V8 version, as the normal aspirated 6 is for North America only. So we'll wait and see if we care anymore, but it sure was big news a handful of days ago. Next up on the list, well, introducing the brand new Tesla Model S. Yes, the Model S is set for a mid-cycle refresh to freshen up the face, try to help sales, which actually have been doing quite poorly here as of late. Autoline.tv is reporting that year over year, from this time last year to this time this year, they're down over 40%, which is pretty huge as far as the sales are concerned, because last year they were doing quite well, so maybe a mid-cycle refresh is right in line with what this vehicle needs. Looks a lot more like the Model X, and supposedly this is going to be the new face for Tesla. This is what the new Model 3's nose is going to look like when they officially unveil the official production vehicle. So no real inner workings of the new Model S, but I'm sure we'll hear a lot more improvements coming down the road. And then last up on the list, I'm going to talk in depth of what's going on at Top Gear. Because over the past several months, especially the fact since this new generation Top Gear is getting ready to come to to fruition, to be on the old BBC in just over a month's time of the taping of this program. But all we have heard in the press and the tabloids and whatnot has been nothing but negativity. There's been a handful of nice little moments, but the bulk of it has been really, really awful, and it really spreading the rumors that this show could be an absolute train wreck. But if you watch this program, you know my feelings on this deal, and I'm going to ram some of those home, at least, because it got me interested. I just sat down and pinned what I could remember of what's been going on over the past several months, and it's pretty bizarre what's been going on over there. Right off the bat, there was a lot of rumors that Chris Evans was very difficult to work with. All the scenes that I've seen of him, he didn't seem to be, or he seems to be a pretty stand-up guy, so seeing that he may be difficult to work with, of course, working with somebody and seeing them outside of work is two completely different things. The fact that the BBC wants to keep a stranglehold on this show because it really is a lot of their bread and butter. Top Gear is the most heavily rated, highly money-making program that is on the BBC to date, so they really want to keep this thing in check. That's a lot of what's been going on, and they're talking about the BBC and Chris Evans actually butting heads. Evans wants to keep this a little more sharp mouth, much like Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammonds did. Maybe saying some things a little bit off color to keep the show fresh and sharp, but BBC wants Top Gear to be a little bit more milquetoast, be down the road center, just cruising right along, not ruffling any feathers. There's also been the situation where a lot of staff members apparently have been leaving the program. I've heard a lot of folks inside, baseball type folks, especially some executives and some producers and the like, have been leaving the program. I don't think it's this big mass exodus, but that's the way a lot of the stuff has been talked about. Not to mention there's been a lot of stuff that the actual staff and the production crew doesn't know anything about automobiles and doesn't really even care. They're leaning a lot on Top Gear magazine for what to shoot and what to talk about. I kind of think this may have been the situation that was beforehand. Even though Richard Hammond, James May, and Jeremy Clarkson, all three of them have columns about automobiles and have road tested many automobiles, I think they still probably leaned on the magazine to try to keep the show fresh as far as what was latest in the news coming forward. So I think that may be a situation that may be a little bit cleaner cut than some of these deals. The fact that the first season has now been cut by 2 episodes was terrible news as well. Now, they gave a nice little excuse for that because the Olympics was coming up and they didn't want to run into it. That could be said, but just the fact that they came out and said that was not the world's greatest news. And then the latest stuff that's been coming out, a sheer deal where you got Chris Evans and Matt LeBlanc, 2 of the big guns in the show, actually apparently butting heads. And this after having a beautiful reveal of all these cast of characters, all these folks that are going to be on the brand new Top Gear, which kind of got me thinking, I wonder if the sheer fact that they want to get down to 3 folks, but actually putting in 3 folks, running a season, finding one of them may leave, and then try to add another person. Maybe if they started with 7 and then whittled it down just to 3, may be the best thing for the show. But back to this whole rift between Matt LeBlanc and Chris Evans. If it is true, could it be true over the whole situation that revolved around the Cinetraf? Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a war memorial in the center of London that's actually was put up as a, well, it's a soldierless tomb, actually, for folks that never ever made it home. Their remains never made it home from battle. So it's a kind of sacred place. And I understand that there was a huge backlash to this whole deal. And it involved the Unicorn. This is Ken Block's 1965 over 800 horsepower all-wheel drive Mustang. He was actually throwing it around with Matt LeBlanc. Now this doesn't look very good. You've got 2 Americans in an American car that is running around a war memorial causing quite havoc. This being said, I think this is actually just an oversight from the production group. They were looking for picturesque places in London to shut streets down and to throw this car all over the place. I think that maybe somebody just may have been an oversight and didn't think about this, and this wasn't actually something that was foresaw, but this could be a situation of the reason why Matt LeBlanc and Chris Evans have now been butting heads. Apparently, the 2 of them are not on real good speaking terms. But again, all this stuff being said, all this bad, terrible press that has been coming out over the past several months, I still think that it's mainly driven by the BBC. The BBC wants to make this show to look like it's going to be an absolute train wreck to try to get you to tune in late in May on the old BBC and get to see a show that's pretty well polished, pretty well put together, and you think, holy cow, I want to see the next episode. And another nice little of niceties that hasn't been a whole lot of, this show will be streaming on Netflix. So if you don't get it to where you are, the thing's supposedly going to come out maybe somewhere around the brand new Amazon Prime show for Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond that could be coming out in the fall. So you can check it out on Netflix if you can't get it on a local affiliate coming to you soon. So we'll wait and see if my theories are true or whether I'm way off base. And believe you me, if I'm way off base, I will publicly apologize for being totally wrong if this thing actually ends up being a wreck indeed. So we'll wait and see on those fronts. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. Links down in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.